United States isn't the only country in the world with a slew of top-secret black aerospace projects.
ኣብ ዓለምና ካብ ዝተረኣዩ ኣገረምትን ምስጢራውያን ካብ ዝበሃሉ ብናይ ኩናት ነፈርትን ወተሃደራውያን ስራሓትን ኣሜሪካ ጥራይ እታ እንኮ መራሒት ኣይነበረትን። በንጻሩ ገለ ካብቶም ኣዝዮም ኣገረምቲ ዝበሃሉ ምህዞታት ናይ ነፈርቲ ኩናት ካብታ ናይቲ እዋንቲ ሓያል ተጸራሪት ዝነበረት ሶቭየት ዩኒየን ወይ ሕብረት ሶቭየት እዩ ዝነበረ። ኣብዚ ቪድዮ ገለ ካብቲ ኣብቲ እዋን ብኣዝዩ ልዑል ምስጢራውነት ወይ ቶፕ ሴክሬት ተባሂሉ ተታሒዙ ዝነበረን ምናልባት እውን ፈጺምኩም ሰሚዕኩምዎ ዘይትፈልጡ ፕሮጀክትታት ክኸውን እዩ። ቀዳማይ M25 ሰኒክ ቦም ፕሌን ዕላማ ናይዛ ነፋሪት ኣብ ግዜ ውግእ ለጠቕ ኢላ ብኣዝዩ ቕልጡፍ ሕምባበን ብምኻድ ኣብ ከባቢኣን ኣብ መሬትን ንዝህሉ ጸላኢ ሓያል ነውፂ ብምፍጣር ነቲ ከባቢ ብዘይከቢድ ዕንወት ዕማም ምፍጻም ነበረ። ቀንዲ ተድመዓሉ ቦታ ድማ ኣብ ቀላጥ ቦታ ክህሉ ንዝኽእል ጸላኢ ዓብዪ ራዕድን ነውፅን ምፍጣር እዩ። እንተኾነ ግን ልክዕ ከምቲ ሓደ ከልቢ ዝነብሕ እምበር ዘይናኸስ ኮይና ተረፈት። እቲ ፕሮጀክት ኣብ መወዳእታ ክበጽሕ ኣይከኣለን።
Craft you could hear coming. Next up, we have possibly one of the most imaginary
ካልኣይ VV6 helicarrier ሓንቲ ካብተን ኣገረምቲ ስራሓት ናይቲ ፕሮጀክት ክትከውን ከላ ብሽዱሽተ ሮታር ብሌደርን ብ24 ቱርቦፋን ጀነሬተር እትዝወር ኮይና ሽዱሽተ ኒክሌራት ካብ መሬት ናብ ሰማይ ክውንጨፍ ዝኽእል ዝተዓጥቀት እውን ነበረት። ኣብ ዝኾነ ኩርናዕ ቦታን ኩነታት ኣየርን ናይዛ ዓለም ብቐሊሉ ክትወስዳ ምኽኣላን ኣብ ልዕሊኣ ወተሃደራትን ነፈርትን ክትጽዕን እውን ትኽእል ምዃናን ምችእቲ ይገብራ።
That's not all. For the situation where offensive abilities are required, the platform can also be swapped out to carry troops, supplies, or even a basing platform for several Yak-38 VTOL fighter jets, making this 20th century helicopter a real-life helicarrier. But we're only getting started with the insanity. Modern Russian research and development is far from spending millions on more wacky things like the VVP helicarrier. But
ሳልሰይቲ SR-71 ሓንቲ ካብተን ኣብ 1950ታት ኣብ ፕሮጀክታት ሕብረት ሶቪየት ዝነበራ ነፈርቲ ኮይና ካብተን ናይቲ እዋን ኣዝየን ዝቐልጠፋ እውን ነበረት። እዛ ብሃይፐርሶኒክ ማክ 5 ክትውንጨፍ እትኽእል ነፋሪት ኩናት ክሳብ 100,000 ፊት ወይ ልዕሊ 30,000 ሜትር ካብ ጽፍሕ ባሕሪ ናይ ምብራር ዓቕሚ እውን ነበራ። DSB-LK ዝብል ቅጽል ስም እውን ነበራ። እዚ ነቲ ነዊሕ ብኣየር ብምስፋፍ ብምጓዓዝን ኒውክሌር ዝተሰከመት ስትራቴጂክ ሎንግ ሬንጅ ቦምበር ብምዃና ነበረ። እንተኾነ ግን ልክዕ ከምተን ካልኦት ብኣዝዩ ምስጢር ተታሒዙ ዝነበረ ፕሮጀክታት እዛ ነፋሪት እውን ኣብ መፈጸምታ ክትበጽሕ ኣይከኣለትን።
Russian aircraft was never built.
ራብዓይቲ AN-225 እውን ሓንቲ ካብተን ኣብ ፕሮጀክታት ዝነበራን ኣብ መፈጸምታ ዘይበጽሓን ኣንቶኖቫት ነበረት። ምስታ እንኮን ቅያር ዘይነበራን AN-225 ኣብ ዩክሬን ዝዓነወት ኣንቶኖቭ እታ ፕሮጀክት መተካእታ ብዘይብላ ዓነወት።
Carrying everything from shuttles to even launching them off its back. But with the news of the destruction of the one and only AN-225 in Ukraine, it comes as the end of an era, perhaps even the end of the last of the Soviet Union mega projects. But speaking of space travel, the next one on this list may have inspired a very famous fictional space fighter. No, this is not an X-Wing fighter from the Soviet Star Wars, but rather a Soviet fighter jet from the 1960s. A tail-sitter aircraft, a concept patented by none other than Tesla, the Soviet attempt at this idea was probably the best-looking version. A MiG-25 meets Star Wars type of aircraft powered by two engines that could take off and land to any small patch of flat surface. It might have even been the perfect aircraft for the Soviet Navy and the Air Force alike. But ultimately, it never got built, but it's certainly up there as one of the most creative aircraft ever made. But the next one did get built. In July 9th of 1961, It was the Soviet Air Force Day. Spectators were in awe as a completely new supersonic bomber flew over the crowd escorted by 2 MiG-21s. It had a sleek design powered by 4 engines with a maximum speed of up to Mach 2, and it was unlike anything the West had ever seen. This was the first time that this brand new aircraft was ever presented to the public, leaving Western military analysts debating for years about just how the Soviets managed to create the next generation bomber, even thinking that they had made it nuclear powered. The Messerschmitt M50 Bounder would become the Soviet Union's future bomber aircraft, able to attack anywhere in the world, and it looked pretty damn cool. But unfortunately, politics made this aircraft go the way of the dodo. But it wasn't the only aircraft that the Soviets also built a prototype of. This Soviet supersonic bomber has a very special mission: to hunt and destroy US aircraft carriers. Yes, this very fast bomber was designed with strategic missions in mind to level the playing field by firing missiles at the US carrier fleet. These were 4.5-ton missiles flying at over Mach 5 with the option of nuclear or high explosive warheads, made explicitly to absolutely wipe out entire battle groups. And unlike many of the others on this list, this aircraft was actually built and tested, but the Sukhoi T-4 Sotka would not enter production development due to production line issues at the factory. They were simply building too many other jets at the same time. Today, the prototype is actually in the same graveyard right next to the M50, making them both brothers forever. But this isn't the only version of the T-4 that made this list. That's right, the next one is stealth. This jet gets an honorable mention and is the feature of an upcoming video on the channel. It was a Soviet stealth bomber designed to take advantage of the rapid advances in radar avoiding technology and design, and put the American back in their place once and for all. Looking like a triangle version of the B-2 Spirit, this plane would have the ability to fly at Mach 3, bomb cities to the ground before vanishing back into the sky. As for what happened, we will just have to watch the full video on the channel. The Soviets were already well known for their amazing tandem rotor monster helicopters, and much more crazy ones like the VVP that we had earlier, but they thought that they could do one better. After all, 3 rotors is better than 2. Called the Mi-32, it would be the largest helicopter ever built in the world, comprising of 3 fuselages and 3 powerful motor engines. Weighing a shocking 150 tons, it was an aircraft made to carry, well, pretty much anything, and would have paved the way for the Soviets to conquer the Far East for their country, and perhaps even conquer the United States themselves. And just by comparison, the fuselage was larger than the Airbus A320, so this helicopter was positively huge. Speaking of large helicopters, originally seen as the next step in engineering after the Ka-22 helicopter, this monster rotor
መደምደምታ ብሙሉእ እቲ ኣብ ሙሉእ ዓለም ዝንገረና ሱፐር ፓወርስ ወይ ከዓ ሓያላን ናይ ዓለምና ተባሂለን ዝፅዋዓ ኣዝዩ ዘደንቕ ነገራት ዝገበራ ከም ናይ በዓል ራሻ ታሪክ ፈጺሙ ኣይንገርን እዩ ወይ ክንገር ኣይድለን እዩ። በዚ ምክንያት ድማ ባዕልና ሰርች እንዳገበርና ናብ ህዝቢ ከነቕርቦ መዲብና ስለ ዘለና ኩልኩም ሼር ላይክ ሳብስክራይብ ምግባር ናባኻትኩም ክንገድፎ ኢና። ንምንታይ እዚ ኣገዳስነቱ እንድሕር ኢልና ንሕና ኢና ሱፐር ፓወር፣ ንሕና ኢና ዓለም ቀይርናያ፣ ንሕና ኢና ካልእ ገይርናያ ዝብሉ ዘለዉ ኣብዚ እዋን እዚ ነዚታት ታሪክ እውን ሰኒዖም ከም ናቶም ገይሮም ኣቕሪቦሞ ከም ዘለዉ ክዝንተው ክፍለጥን ይግባእ። ዝተፈላለየ ዓይነት ታሪኻት ኣብ ታሪክ ኩሉ ግዜ መን ስዒሩ ወፂኡ ዳ እዩ ዝዝንቶ እምበር መን ሓያል ነይሩ ኣይዝንቶን እዩ።
Most overkill bomber aircraft ever designed, called the Bartini A-57. This bomber would be a flying boat that could fly vertically, carried the biggest nuclear weapons the Soviets could muster, and had its own parasite fighter capable of scouting, defense, and independent strikes. This flying monster could land anywhere from water to desert to snow and ice, and could be refueled from submarines in remote lagoons and lakes, all with only a crew of 3 and a range to reach the distant shores of the United States. But this incredible concept from an even more incredible engineer never happened, and the USSR passed on what could have turned the tide of their nuclear fever. What do you think? What's your favorite in the list? And don't forget to check out the offer from Masterworks with the link in the description and support the channel.
share, like, subscribe ምግባር አይትረስዑ. Thank you.